So today I have a special guest, I would call it, a friend of mine, a colleague for many years, over what, 30 years, Chris?
It's been
About
30 years or so,
yeah.
easily. Yeah.
So Chris Hanna, he's in our Allentown office at RE/MAX Central. I'm in Center Valley and such. And Chris is someone who I've worked with. We've invested in property together. We've done some other things over time. But when I pick up the phone, we still do that in this day and age, pick up the phone and talk to Chris. Normally it's about him helping me with a client do something called a short sale or a loan modification, which we'll talk about. Chris, talk to me a little bit about what a short sale is.
Yeah, basically a short sale it's real simple in the sense of they're in trouble, they're underwater, they're behind on the payments, and it's that obviously the threat of losing their home, it's a pretty daunting experience for a seller who's behind with the fear that they're going to lose their house. So a short sale is they owe more than what the house is worth. They're behind on the payments, and then it becomes either a short sale or a foreclosure if they cannot recover financially.
Right, and tell me, or for everyone here that's watching, you and I both know a short sale is much more preferable than doing a foreclosure, but go over the reasons why.
Yeah, it's one of the things with a foreclosure, it's a lengthy process. We're in a judicial state, which means every action that happens goes through the court system. Court systems, as we all know, are very slow and they move at a snail's pace. So the average house in foreclosure is about 2.5 years. It's a long time. In that interim time, as the homeowner is not making payments, for those 2.5 years, their credit is being dinged and dinged each and every month, and to a point where they see a significant loss of credit rating going with it.
And not only that, I mean, just the stress of the whole situation of not knowing what the creditor is going to be doing next.
That's right.
How long they have in their home.
That's right.
And such. And my counsel, as yours is to the seller, or the borrower in this case, taking charge of the situation through the short sale process.
Yeah, that's the key, is really for the homeowner to be proactive versus just taking a step back. And it's easy sometimes to disregard those notices that come in the mail, and worse, a very embarrassing point where their banks have the right to post your house, put a notice on the house that you're in foreclosure. Technically, a house becomes eligible or is in foreclosure in 90 days. So
right,
on the
so if there's 3 mortgage
Yeah.
payments that are missed sequentially,
That's right.
that's when you'll get, in Pennsylvania at least, what's called an Act 91 notice.
Correct.
Which then formally notifies you, and it's a formal process, formally notifies you and the world that, hey, you're behind and you need to do something or else a foreclosure is going to happen.
No, that's absolutely right. The one thing about a foreclosure, it's very systematic, it's laid out, it's done through law. So in the 90-day mark, they begin to advertise, they post it, they begin to send you that legal action, and it's tough. Again, this could go on for 2.5 years, which is a long time. And I think sometimes the sellers have this feeling after year 1 or year 2, hey, they're just gonna send me harassing notices. What are they going to do? And the truth of the matter is, it's their positioning, it's how they do it. So it's very predictable. It's up to me to understand that. And I think it's like anything else. If I can explain that to a homeowner that this is what's going to happen, be prepared. And I think more importantly, allow that sense of comfort be there, because we're certainly we know exactly what's gonna happen. I think that's really the key point.
Now, how much does it cost someone to go through a short sale process?
Yeah, the nice thing is that the sellers are responsible for no commission, no transfer tax. In many cases, they have, let's say, back taxes that are in arrears. They have water and sewer, utilities haven't been paid for a number of years. The cool thing is that the lien holders often step up and satisfy that. So the answer is that there is no financial risk for the seller. It's just participation, and then of course establishing that game plan, going forward.
I mean, I've often said to people that have been facing that situation that, hey, you're going to have your lender pay to take care of your short sale, or you're going to pay the bank's lawyer to do a foreclosure for you.
Yeah, that's so true. I think the key thing is you want to, I think every homeowner deserves the right to have more control versus less control. And less control is doing nothing and allowing a lender and their attorneys and their dogs about it. They will hunt you down, basically, in so many words. It's just, that's how it is. So I think the key thing is knowledge is everything, and comfort for a homeowner in terms of what to expect.
Now, speaking of that knowledge, I know we've gone over this a couple times. Talk about the tax considerations, because many times one of the, not the first question, but sellers will be like, hey, what do I do about the balance of the mortgage that was forgiven and not recovered in a short sale?
Yeah.
I'm going to get a 1099. I'm going to talk to me a little bit about that.
And it's almost two-part. Everybody asks, okay, I'm selling the house for less than what it's worth. The answer is, and it's a wonderful thing, is that the lenders just will forgive that point. So you don't owe them any money at that point. However, with that loss, and an example would be if the house is sold at, let's say, $50,000, and you owe $100,000, there's a $50,000 gap that's there. Banks do have the right to provide that 1099, and a 1099
for that deficiency,
for the deficiency amount, which is not a good thing. However, there is an answer to that. Fortunately, within our IRS tax code, there's called it's Form 982. I know we talked about this before. They have a form for everything, right? Yeah, exactly. 982. And essentially, if the ruling is that if the seller is insolvent, they do not have to pay that deficiency amount. And that's a wonderful thing. That's where your tax attorney, or even an H&R Block, even the most elementary accountant, I should say, can take care of that. So essentially, it gets wiped off again. So you'll have no negative repercussions, but expect the 1099. I think the other side to the coin is the banks have that right to issue the 1099, whether it's a short sale or a foreclosure. And that's a big misconception, where a lot of people have said, if I do nothing and they foreclose, everything goes away. The answer is that's not the case at all. The banks have every right to issue that 1099, and they will with a foreclosure and certainly with a short sale.
And the other aspect talking about, and I know we talked a little bit before we came on here, but for a seller that comes in and does a short sale versus a foreclosure, the credit impact is much less, and they can get back into the market and buy again in a very short time period, like 2 years. Is that correct?
Yeah,
or 2.5
absolutely.
years, as opposed to a foreclosure where you have a foreclosure 7 years, you're done.
Yeah, that's completely right. 7 years on a foreclosure is about average. We've had scenarios where, and it's interesting, where we had a homeowner, did a short sale through a divorce, so there was some turbulence there, was buying a house a year and a half later. She was able to reestablish her credit, which we also help out too, by the way. We don't charge for that, but there's an absolute formula to try and manipulate a credit score in terms of increasing it. And it works wonderful, and we've talked about that before. But the key is financial recovery happens, let's say, between a year and a half or 2 years. You could be buying a house. If it's a foreclosure, it could be a 7-year drought of being able to get into the home ownership
market. Shut out of the market, and that's certainly something that we don't want to see anybody have happen.
That's the tough part. I think the key is be proactive, calling us, getting information, and really for us to create options is really what it's all about.
And then speaking of creating options, not only do you do the credit repair, rehabilitation work also, but you also will help somebody in what's called a loan modification. Speak to that a little bit. What is a loan modification, and how does it help a borrower?
Well, truthfully, the loan modification, it's a wonderful instrument in terms of if you are behind. Most lenders really do not want to foreclose on people.
Right.
I think that's also, we've heard that quite often, that the bank just wants the bank does not want the property, but they do want to be compensated. And whether or not that's getting monthly payments, bringing it out of arrears. I think the important thing is that they're willing to work with somebody. How do we restructure this situation? And by using a loan modification, essentially what they're doing is they're going to give you a sense of reprieve. It'll allow you to stay in that property. It buys time, which is a cool thing. But by buying time, it may allow you to, let's say, recoup some of that monetary loss and bring your property mortgage. But the loan modification really is, it keeps you in the home, which is, that if that's your goal, that's essentially what we want to set up. And what they will do is they'll probably stack it on to the principal at the end. But what it does, it's a absolute great mechanism to buy time.
Yeah, exactly. I had a good friend of mine, he's a subcontractor we use on the construction side of the business, had back surgery. He couldn't work. He's out for 3 months. He did a loan modification. They took the payments, tacked them on the back, charged him a little bit here and there. He got back on his feet. He's making payments. And he was able to hold on to his home.
That's the key.
And enjoy the recovery in real estate values that we're seeing now.
Yeah, that's so true. I think buying time could be a wonderful thing, and I think if the homeowner, and most of them are very sincere, most have absolute significant financial hardship, and you feel for it. I mean, you listen
Absolutely.
to it. Health is one of the big things. Yep. We see a lot of divorce situations.
Yep.
Today's environment, most people buying houses, as you know, it's a two-income scenario. So both husband and wife, they're both generating income. Divorce is if one splits away. Oftentimes that financial turbulence, again, kind of rears its head, So when that goes away, I think that's something where it can be the early stages of what could be we're being behind, which then falls into short sale foreclosure, zone, which we all want to avoid.
No, we want to avoid that. But again, even in a loan modification, it takes the seller, not that they're selling in that case, but it takes the borrower the necessity of being proactive.
Absolutely.
Say, hey, reaching out for help. I know that, and it's hard to find that help. I mean, you see so many different avenues and such. The best thing is to call a seasoned broker, agent like ourselves. I mean, we both have over 30 years of experience. And we can help you very economically, and that's something that we're all about. And I know that I've relied upon you to help my clients with that specialty. I mean, I've done all sorts of work in real estate and such, but I also know when, hey, I have colleagues, professionals that have very specific expertises that they can bring to bear to help my clients in their time of need.
It's a niche that I do. I'm also a real estate agent, as we all know, so I see it from all perspectives, and I think that's an important part, is understanding the big picture. It's not just we do short sales. I mean, there's so many different avenues that we can take, and I think this is a skill set that, I can proudly say it's what I do. I have been doing for a number of years.
Oh yeah, I can attest to that. Yeah, you've done an excellent job for many of my clients.
We did short sales before there was such a thing. I mean, I did one. The first one I ever did was in 1996, and no one talked about a short sale. It just simply means that banks are not looking, again, just to take your property. Banks are looking to recoup that loss. And I think they're willing to help, but it's up to us to at least provide those options to
a bank is a financial institution interested in making money on money. They're not interested in owning real property.
That's right. Yeah, exactly right. So it's also the reason why a short sale is granted by most of the banks. Financially, it makes sense for them to offer that, because once they engage into an attorney, and it's this lengthy court process, the judicial system that we have, they're not seeing anything coming back, as in the lien holder. So it behooves them to hire somebody like myself or be part of a short sale. And financially, the banks actually fare out much better than if it does fall into the foreclosure block, which we walk through foreclosures. They can be damaged. We see vandalized properties to a point where many go in and steal copper out of property. So they're usually in pretty deplorable condition, and a vacant property kind of invites that. I think that's where the short sale can circumvent that time. Banks love it. I think everybody is sort of a win-win scenario and a very difficult thing to talk about, but it does happen. I think the good news is by helping people stay in their house, that's something we offer, and there's no fee for that.
Speaking of that, the one other issue, and I know you're not a tax attorney or an accountant, but oftentimes the IRS does play into a situation with real estate where they have a tax lien on a property, and you've dealt with those situations also.
Yeah, it's interesting. A lot of people have almost discounted the possibility of a short sale. It's like, hey, we owe the IRS $100,000.
How are we going to do this?
How are we going to make up that gap? The nice thing is with the IRS is they're willing to release that lien. It's a lien release, and they're willing to take a step back. The debt does not go away, and it's been said. I know we talked about this, that the government often sleeps, but they never die.
Right.
So you may not hear from them, but you will at some given point down the road. I think the neat thing is that the IRS will allow this transaction to happen. They pull away, they pull the lien release off
or
of the property.
Or they'll take a partial amount and they'll work with you, but they're workable. It's not like you shouldn't just throw your hands up in the air and say, well, I owe the IRS this and that, and there's nothing I can do.
That's
you can work with them.
I would probably say it's true. The IRS is a lion, and most people fear that lion, and they can be. But what I found through discussions with them, they'll work with you if you reach out to them. They'll negotiate. They'll bring their numbers down. They'll give you a payment plan. I've seen the worst case scenarios on IRS tax liens, and we often get this. The homeowner just blew them off. They took the notice, threw it away for year after year after year. Finally, then, the IRS has that power. They can levy that judgment or lien, and the penalties get absurdly, ridiculously high. And I think any accountant will tell you that if you communicate and you try and work that situation out, your outcome will fare out much better than the guy that just ignores it.
Exactly. So and specifically, really as far as real estate goes, you can help with that.
Without a doubt, we point them in the right direction. So, that's a big part of it too. There's attorneys that are out there. A lot of times attorneys will collect retainers, and they'll take money and they'll work with you with, let's say, a loan modification or a workout plan. We don't charge a retainer fee, and we never ever want to take business away from an attorney. But in this case, it's advice that we can offer, and again,
experience.
Absolutely, we're just and there are times when if they're in a financial situation, maybe they're in a bankruptcy possibility. By all means, get the best counsel. Go to an attorney. But these discussions we can have is we can at least point people in the right direction, and really get the best outcome in the quickest amount of time. Exactly. That's really what it's about.
Yeah. So I would recommend anyone that's facing any sort of financial difficulty as it impacts their real estate to give myself a call. Contact us through RE/MAX. You're in the Allentown branch. I'm here in Center Valley. We're here to help you, and would certainly be glad to do so, and would really not want to see you not take advantage of some simple, economical, free advice that we have with our collective experience that will help mitigate a situation that may be very daunting to you.
Yeah, without a doubt. I think that's really the key thing, and you'd be surprised. This is such a burden. It's a financial cloud that hovers over people, and when it's removed, I've gotten more thank yous, and that's kind of neat, but it just shows you the emotional impact that it can really take
where you live.
on
it's someone.
Exactly.
Yeah, you're trying to take care of a family. You're trying to keep a roof over everybody's head.
We just did one recently in Center Valley, and it was a reverse mortgage. Their parents lived in the property, And the daughter who was handling this refused to let the bank take this property. It was almost, it just went against her grain, so to speak. She wanted to take the short sale option. We did a reverse mortgage short sale. It was successful. She received no funds out of this situation. And she was, she was beyond thankful about what was done, and the cloud erases. So it's pretty amazing, really, when you really break it down. That we hear that feedback, from the seller, and it's sometimes we get caught up in the business side of it. But again, if this helps somebody just sleep better at night and get through it, there's an answer usually around the corner if we put a strategy together, which is what I do.
That's awesome. Yeah, and you do a very good job of it. I appreciate you coming to talk to us today about that.
Thanks so much. Yeah, thanks for having me.
Thanks, Chris.
Excellent. Okay.